So this will be the last segment in relation to the Hasbro Pulse Fanstream that we've been talking about all day today, all the really cool stuff. The last stuff we're going to be covering is some of the buzzworthy stuff that we've already covered quite extensively over the past couple of days. I did a really good segment diving deep into what's going on with those figures, the homages, what they represent. So go check out that segment if you want to get the deep information on that. But I will cover some of the new information that we learned from the designers here today, as well as the big reveal of the final Gen Selects item, and something that even blew my mind of forward thinking of engineering that I did not realize with a product. We'll get into that at the end of this. So first we had, as BMAC refers to as, the Death Scene 2-pack. This is the Studio Series buzzworthy Bumblebee Target exclusive Ironhide and Prowl 2-pack. We talked about it again very extensively, explained the whole story. What we learned today is that this was an Evan and Yuya collaboration. They worked together from Takara and Hasbro. It actually all started as a joke. It was a joke that between BMAC and Evan, and then it was like, no, you're going to make that happen. And well, BMAC made that happen. And so we have this set here today. Evan said a big thing that he really wanted to work on was correcting the colors on Prowl, because apparently he wasn't happy with how the Amazon one came out. It had the black thighs and waist, which was wrong for Prowl, so he wanted to put the correct coloring for that sculpt. So if anything, that kind of tells us that there's room for improvement for a future Prowl, and it won't have to just be an Amazon exclusive. So I feel like Evan's a man with a mission there, and something better could potentially come in the future. So that's kind of something to take away from that. Then they went into the buzzworthy Bumblebee Troop Multipack, Troop Builder Multipack, which again, we did a quite extensive historical lesson on all of those individual characters and the molds and everything. But what we learned today was it was a Mark and Hasui-san design. They were extremely excited about doing this. The reason why there was no alternate head for the Seeker mold was because those old Siege Seekers from the War for Cybertron construction didn't have alternate heads, and the way that they popped on was not proper for that. Like, you did have a sense where, Skywarp and Thundercracker, they had different heads, but they weren't interchangeable. So that kind of old engineering from that old John Warden era could not be used here today, and that's why the Seeker was the only one without a new head. I absolutely popped out of my seat when Evan mentioned Kiss Play on the stream. I'm like, what a world we live in where Kiss Players is still getting mentioned, and that's fantastic. Oshima-san must be laughing like crazy all the way back in Japan, who's now working on the Masterpiece line, who created Kiss Play. So that made my day. That was hilarious. Thank you, Evan, for that. Not much else that could really be said. Again, we did an individual segment. Go check that out. We have a whole history lesson on all of those individual characters, specifically the G-Axis and the Auto Troopers and everything like that. Cool stuff. They did a quick mention of some pre-orders that are going to be available on Thursday coming up on June 22nd. That VNR Optimus Prime, the Volvo one that we saw, they just pretty much gave some deeper information. They kind of avoided about saying that it was an Amazon truck, so I wonder what's the story with that. Anyways, that was a Sam Smith design. Pretty cool. Not much really we could say. Just it's going to be going up for pre-order on the 22nd. Go check out. The big thing we're going to talk about here is, so BMAC and the crew revealed the final Generation Selects item of 2023. And it was no surprise because we saw through listings that this was something that was going to happen. And not to mention, when we got that Inferno Legacy, we knew that that black repaint was coming sooner or later. The Antagony Gen Selects was shown to us based on the BotCon 1998 female Inferno repaint. Was only 600 made, was ridiculously tough to get back in the day, and even today is a very valuable item. And now we have that here today, a Mark and Shusan design together. One thing that I was kind of disappointed was I was kind of hoping there'd be a brand new head sculpt instead of being a straight up Inferno repaint. I mean, the original was a straight up Inferno repaint, but that came from a different era of Transformers where we didn't really expect alternate heads and retools of like stuff to make new characters. So I was kind of hoping we get something that was very close to what that old BotCon design art would have, that had a very more feminine kind of face sculpt instead of just a purple Inferno head. So that was kind of a bummer. I was kind of hoping for something new. Maybe a third-party company or something will make one we could plop on. But there was an unexpected addition, and then something that kind of even blew my mind was first, Mark and Evan pulled out, specifically Mark pulled out a brand new alternate head sculpt that could be put onto it of a Transmetal Scavenger. So, of course, Scavenger was this Transmetal figure that was available back in the day in 1998, horribly shelf-warmed because it wasn't very popular. A lot of us agree in the community that this was supposed to be a Transmetal Inferno, and they just called it Scavenger for trademark reasons and other things. Of course, that figure, when it was released in Japan, was called Transmetal Inferno. So if you own a Japanese version, you have that connection there. But he was just this, again, obscure Transmetal character, and now Mark's going to be including a head with it. Now, the thing is that I get a feeling that this thing was always supposed to have, the head was always on the sprue, and there was always an intention to make this into a Scavenger. And the reason for that is because something that Mark said that caught my attention, and no one has talked about it, but Mark said there's a little bit of hidden sculpted detail inside the chest of Antagony. And I went, wait a minute, well, if it's the same sculpted figure and they didn't change anything, it's probably the same on Inferno. So I went and I got my Inferno, and lo and behold, inside the Bug Mode's head is sculpted detail that matches the chest of Transmetal Scavenger. Mind blown. So clearly they were planning, when they were making that Inferno tooling, they were planning at some point there was going to be a Scavenger Transmetal Beast Wars homage through this. So probably at some point, because we have the Scavenger head here with the Antagony, but maybe at some point they're going to retool the legs, make them more metallic, transmetal-y, and then you're going to have that chest opened up for the detail, and you're going to put that Scavenger head on it, and you're in business. And this technically then makes it our first ever Transmetal upgraded up to this point within our modern Legacy era. So very, very interesting to say the least. Now I kind of want to pick up a second Inferno, just in case if they don't do what I'm thinking, they don't do a Transmetal retool or something. Get a second Inferno and throw this Scavenger head on it, and now you have that sculpted detail that's in the inside chest. I was so shocked I didn't even notice that, and I was like, wow, that's some real forward thinking there. But you get that a lot now. A lot of these sculpts now, when we get them, and we see that with the Shadow Striker being the most blatant example of the stuff that we talked about today, where you look at something and you go, oh yeah, they're planning for this, and that in the next couple of years. But with an Inferno that had baked in detail hidden under the surface that is for a Transmetal Scavenger, and then we have the Scavenger head and the Antagony, I love all of this. This is everything that I love about Transformers, especially from a design standpoint. So that is so cool. That is so absolutely cool. And I'm so excited about this. For sure, when this goes up, which again, it's going to be June 22nd, it's happening. Pre-order, baby. Again, the original Antagony was a ridiculously expensive $500 to a $700 BotCon exclusive that had a super limited run in 1998. You're going to get a better version here that has an extra head sculpt, that has hidden tooling. I love it. Super excited about this. Let me know what you think, guys. It was a fantastic day today. A lot of cool stuff. Thanks for everyone who stuck by to listen to all these segments as we were pumping them out here today. And I hope you learned something. I know I learned something, but I hope you guys learned something today. And be sure to check out the other segments I talk about that kind of flesh out some of the stuff that I didn't bother to really do here today, because I felt that those previous segments did a much better job and I didn't want to kind of repeat myself. So check that out, that stuff out too. And we'll talk again real soon in the near future here on the Transformer Slag podcast.